Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back for another painting video. This time an Inflictor Heavy Warjack from the Cryx faction of Warmachine, Stormy Gray 09088. So the Inflictor is based off the Seether chassis. The Seether is basically a Slayer on steroids, with a tortured soul bound to its cortex to basically turn into a raving berserker. The Inflictor also has a tortured soul bound to it, a soul drive, but in its case it's more defensive, and the soul is compelled to covet the warcaster enslaving it, making it incredibly protective of its tormentor. And the equipment varies substantially too. It lacks the tusks, has one shield claw, providing an armor bonus and an open fist system. And this big scorpion-like injector on the right has a reservoir of poison and has the critical poison ability, giving it an additional damage dice against living models on a critical hit. I'm really running low on this paint. Hope I had enough to finish the job. Get a nice solid base coat here, and I am using a larger brush than I normally would. Originally, the Seether was a warjack of renown, no D in that, which, when it first came out, were warjacks that had a limited field allowance instead of an unlimited like normal. That has changed in subsequent editions, with the backstory being the Seether originally was the last thing left behind by a vanished necrotech of particular deranged genius that was finally reverse engineered, with the Seether, or with the Inflictor, being the Seether's variant. And this is the new kit that makes the Seether or Inflictor. I wanted one of these for a while, and I've only recently got one. Looks like a nice solid coat, so I'm going to let that dry and start adding some more colors in it a bit. Okay, next, Old Bronze 09197. Well, that was a lovely sound. Just doing a secondary color with this, getting the rib cage. Not really ribs, but that's the design they went for, which works because, again, Cryx. This time I will get those hoses in a different color. Just picking out certain areas with certain textures, and you know what, I will go ahead and just get these hoses in the bronze anyway. Last minute decision. Looks like I missed the smokestack. I'll have to go back and touch that up. That's fine. It happens. It's been happening a lot lately, actually. Using just enough water to thin the paint, keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. And the neck and hip joints. And these pistons and the forelimbs. Parts of these canisters for the poison. Anything else I want to do? Yeah. Go in there and get these pistons. The hips, they're not too visible, but visible enough. And the big screws on the chest. This portion of the stinger. And I'll do these projections there and up top. Okay, I like that. Alright. I'm gonna let that dry, do some touch-ups, and move on a bit. Next, alien purple. Using this sporadically just to give a secondary color to a few specific sections. It's a little soupy right in there, and I want those channels clear because they're going to be lit up by the time I'm done. careful here because one of the spikes on the knees hits the plate here. I think that's good. Not a whole lot. I don't need a whole lot of that. And then plate mail metal. Getting the claws. And these spikes. Again, Cryx and Warjacks are weapons of intimidation as much as they are weapons of war. May not have tusks, but it's got horns and blades. I again have to assume are there solely for intimidation. Okay. Finishing the spikes on the top of the hull. I do want to get the fingers on the shield claw, which definitely look blade-like. I'll leave the spikes alone. Yeah, leave the spikes alone. And I think I'm satisfied with that, so that's base coats. Once that dries completely, I can start shading. Man, my camera's conking out, oh boy. Alright, time to shade. Going to start with Nightshade Purple 09022. Thinning with 1 part water to 1 part paint to make it into a wash. Going a little thinner than that, I think, since this is a darker color. too much of this. I'm hearing my system making bad noises again. Let me try and drop thousands of frames. Okay. And then Blackened Steel 09205. And this will go over the plate mail metal. And getting the bits on the back. I decided not to do the little tail hook this time. Just getting all the nasty, sharp, pointy bits here. Okay, let that dry, then move on. Alright, next, aged Pewter 09196. Alright. Going over the bronze. This won't take too terribly long. I still don't know why I have this habit of whispering when I'm hyper-focused, but whatever. Getting the neck. underlying moving parts beneath the armored carapace. So, annoying fact about first edition Warmachine, a warjack would be crippled, or rather rendered inert, if any 3 systems were disabled, including the hull, represented by the blank box on the stat card. Thankfully, they did away with that in 2nd edition. Okay. Now that's all the bronze. As that dries, I can do the gray and wrap up shading. Okay, last shade, pure or matte black. With particularly dark colors, only 2 to 3 parts water, 1 part paint. And that seems a bit too dark still. Just a little more water to thin it out. Alright now. I am still pushing Malifaux Monster Apocalypse this year. So there is going to be more of that coming up, and the Monster Apocalypse especially will jump ahead in the queue. So things I'm planning on will get moved around as I get things in for that game. Now, Privateer has also announced Warcaster Neo Mechanica, and there is a strong chance at this point I may end up backing that game, so just heads up for the future. Starting on the pieces I am least likely to bump into on accident while I wrap up. Nice solid color on the shade here. Well, first I thought I'd squirted out too much of this paint, but now I'm wondering if I'm gonna have enough. Now I'm just about done here. It's good because my camera's making, my whole system's making those noises again that usually indicates there's a problem. So just get this done. Oh boy. I want to try this. Getting back and give myself a little more room here. Okay. That's it for the shading. Once this dries, I can start the lighting effects. Okay. Matte white. Prepping some lighting effects. That's too thick. Put it out just a bit. Going in between the bones on the rib cage. Eyes on the side of the head. Remember to the back right away this time. Furnace. Back here. Then these slots here on the shoulder. If this overextends, that's fine. It'll help sell the illusion of glowing. And then one of the most important ones, carefully getting the canisters. I'm bracing my dominant hand on my offhand The finger's on my offhand, so it's unfortunately getting in the way of the camera, but there's not much I can do about that. Okay. These channels here. And on the opposite side. Okay. Then on the claw. Okay. That's got it. So I need to let that dry, and then I can do the lighting. Oh, and I dropped 200 frames a second. Oh boy. Okay. Lighting effects. Pale green 09012. Thinning with 2 to 3 parts water to 1 part paint. And going over the white. That's a little keys for some of the white to show through. Help sell the illusion that the model is glowing. If it extends past where you want it a bit, well, 1, it'll come out when you highlight, and 2, it'll help sell the illusion of a glowing effect. Or that it's glowing. Kind of doing one section at a time. And as I said in the last video, Cryx uses a necromantically infused kind of coal called necrotite. It gives off a distinct green glow. As well as giving off fumes more toxic than carbon monoxide. But the dead don't breathe, so they don't care. Now with the Corruptor, in the last video I had more than one color for the lighting. That was because it has a little buffet of toxins to use, but the Inflictor just has the one, so I'm just going to use the same pale green for the poison in the reservoir. Keeping the brush very wet during this. That lighting on the chest got a little weird, but that's alright. the lighting. Once that dries, I can start highlighting, but before that, I'll take matte white and prep the front arc. And use the same green to color it, but so that I don't have to put more than one coat on. I'm going to prep it with a little bit of this white and take a flathead brush and just deliberately overextending it first. I'll go back and tighten this up later. Alright, once this whole thing's completely dry, I can start highlighting and wrap up. Alright, time to highlight. Uniform gray. That is not mixed well. Alright, picking out a ragged feathered brush. This one should do fine. It's more like it. Straight paint, no water. Rub most of it out on a paper towel so it looks like there's nothing left. And then lightly dust the area to be affected. Going against any raised edges. Replenishing the paint as necessary. Focusing on the most readily visible areas. Next, Amethyst Purple 09024. I see my camera's done some funny things with the lighting. Alright, great. Great. Full cynicism implied if it's not obvious. I am switching brushes here. Need a completely dry one for each color. Tarnished Brass 09198. Just about done with this. Giving a nice burnished look to this metal here. Oh, rats. Yeah, I'm gonna brush because I forgot to do the top of the damn containers here. That's better. True Silver 09207. Last one. All the sharp, pointy bits. Not least of all, the stinger here. Okay, that's the highlight. We're now taking pale green 09012 again. And a flathead. Going over the arc I started. Getting the actual action color I want there. Being careful around the toes where it extends to the base. Okay. Once that completely dries, I can take the next step. Oh boy. Alright. Now to finish up the arc. Matte black. Got it centered on a self-healing cutting mat Privateer Press puts out. And it's marked for 30, 40, and 50 millimeter bases. Taking a shiny new detail brush. Going just carefully mark the edges. Clean it out thoroughly. Then going back to the flathead. Just carefully backfill. Okay. Let that dry completely, then I can wrap up with the basing. Okay, matte white. It's a tiny dot of it. I'm just going to put a Roman numeral 1 on the back, just so I can quickly just tell these apart when I eventually get a second. Okay, and while that dries, I have to go grab my glue I left in the other room again. Good grief. Oh boy. Oh boy. Working on multiple projects at once. And only one bottle of Elmer's to go around. White glue. Generous amount of water. Get my basing material out. Mix that all up. Heap got on my hand there. Right. And just carefully paint around the feet of the model. Going up to the edge of the lip here, which is really handy. Okay. Clean out the brush thoroughly and take my base material, a mix of flock and static grass, and give it a dip. Get the excess knocked off. And then taking a brush that is dry, just going to dust it away from areas I don't want it, which looks like I got this pretty good this time, so alright. You can let that set for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I can seal it and wrap up. Alright, last step that I can do on camera. The very last step, which I cannot do on camera, is to spray this down with a varnish to seal the paint job and give it a rock hard finish. But Scenic Cement is a Woodland Scenics product. Glass eyedropper. Just gonna dab that onto the surface. the flock. You need to give this time to set first, though, otherwise this will push the facing material around and make divots in it. So this will also seal it and give you a rock hard finish. And that is it. A Cryx Inflictor. Got 5 more Cryx videos coming up, possibly interrupted with Monster Apocalypse before I switch factions. But until then, I am Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, signing out.